convoque la réunion.
Welcome to meeting number 5 of the Standing Committee on Official Languages. Before starting, I would make some general comments. I would like to remind participants of the following points. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. All comments should be directed to the chair. I would ask members to raise your hand if you wish to speak, whether you are here or in person or via Zoom. The committee clerk and I will do our best to maintain the speaking order. The committee is meeting to resume where we left off at Monday's meeting on October 20th. Mr. Gaudin tabled a motion followed by an amendment by Mr. Beaulieu. They were adopted. The committee was therefore seized of the debate on the motion as amended. Before starting, I would like to clarify some things because there were discussions surrounding procedure last time. First, there were many dilatory motions tabled last time. I would like to remind people that a dilatory motion can only be tabled by a member who has the right to speak. And the last time we spoke about this often frequently, the chair can now move to a vote if someone wants to keep talking. And I will do my best to make sure that anyone who wants to contribute can do so before we move to a vote. I just want to clarify that. I see that Mr. Beaulieu, about the dilatory motion, there also, is that like suspension motions? Larger than that? I will ask the clerk to answer your question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A dilatory motion is a non-debatable, non-amendable motion. Usually it's a very short motion to deal with the topic or the question at hand. It asks the committee and the debate to be adjourned or that the committee moves on to something else. If there's more than one element on the agenda, essentially to move on to the next thing. A vote cannot be requested. That's not a dilatory motion, as Mr. Chair just said. 116.2 says that if someone still wants to talk, the debate cannot be ended. So we cannot ask for a vote because it depends, except when someone asks me to speak. If there's no one on the speaking order, we consider the debate to be over and that no one wants to talk. And then it is up to the chair to realize that there is no one in the speaking order, and then the committee can move forward with a vote. That's a general observation, essentially saying there's nobody who wants to speak to the vote. So, Mr. Dalton, when there's a fixed time, does it go until no one has something to say, or the agenda set by the committee is here to guide the work? It's not something that is fixed. The committee is in charge of its own work. So if the committee wants to do things differently compared to what is on the agenda, they can do so. There is also the issue of resources. Resources are not unlimited. So if we run into overtime, we make a request for resources and then the service side will answer. It's not necessarily a matter of procedure, it's also a matter of resources. But a committee can decide what it wants to do. If the committee wants to continue the meeting because the debate is not over, they have the right to ask for that. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Can I move on to Mr. Gaudin? I have a question for the clerk. You said that it is the committee that decides on how long the work lasts. On Monday, was the 1 hour length decided by the committee? What I said is that the agenda published is a guide for the committee's work. The guide that was published on Monday was for 1 hour. If members want to go beyond 1 hour, that is the prerogative of the committee. And then we will have to see what service is available. I have a procedural question. Does that require unanimous consent? Or is it up to the discretion of any member of the committee or the chair? The chair has the power to suspend a meeting. We say that the chair needs to have the consent of the committee to adjourn a meeting. That's why at the end of every meeting, the chair will ask if it is the will of the committee to adjourn a meeting. Unanimous consent does not apply here. If most members want to continue the debate, we assume that is the will of the committee. I want to ask a clearer question. The meeting is expected to last 1 hour. And I'm not playing partisan politics here. We know that all members of parliament here are very busy. On Monday night, some members of parliament replaced other members because they were busy with other things. Those people came here expecting 1 hour of work. So, if I understand correctly, if we want to extend, then that requires unanimous consent. I understand there are many levels. I just want to clarify that for the upcoming meetings. That's my question. Unanimous consent is about rules, and the agenda published is not about rules. And that's why we do not use unanimous consent in that case. The majority of members is considered the will of the committee. If members do not want to continue the meeting past the hour, there are a few options. The prerogative of the chair allows the meeting to be adjourned with the consent of the committee. The chair can also decide to suspend the committee. That's not something that we encourage chairs to do, because these are usually used for temporary pauses and not to suspend a meeting for many days. Committee members can also recommend an adjournment of the meeting, and then they can make an informal decision, or there can be a commitment from the chair to adjourn the meeting and then to restart debate at the following session. That's something that me as a clerk can add to the minutes of the committee to record the decision, and then that will be added to the agenda of the next meeting. Those are the mechanisms that we suggest members to use and agree on the next steps. I don't want to spend an eternity on this because public dollars are important and we do not want to waste that money to learn about procedure. But if I understand correctly, when we come to committee, it is not always certain that we will leave on time. Is that true? That is the will of the committee. Thank you. But on that topic, based on the last meeting, what I understood was that the chair can decide that the meeting continues without unanimous consent, nor majority consent. If a majority of members here want to end the meeting, we consider that to be the will of the committee. The agenda is a guide. We assume that the time slots of the committee, so 11 to 1 today, well, that's what's on the notice, and we say, well, we are meeting from 11 to 1. If, let's say, at 12:55, most members want to continue, there's no mechanism to stop them unless someone suggests or tables an adjournment motion, and that receives the consent of most members. At the last meeting, I had the impression that most members wanted to stop. It continued. And based on what I understood, the chair decided and said, we are suspending. Or else it would have continued. On Monday, the question was whether the committee would be adjourned or suspended. Most committee members wanted to end the meeting, but how? Suspension or adjournment? Based on what I understood, that was the crux of the issue. Mr. Godin tabled a dilatory motion to suspend. Most members voted in favor of that, so we suspended. So if it's the will of the majority, we cannot go over time. Mr. Deschênes, to understand properly, the adjournment motion that we tabled to end the committee, we tabled it around 7:32. And how we accepted, that would have ended the meeting, but because that was not the will of the committee and we wanted to suspend, that led to delays. But adjournment is to end the committee, and we had to see if the committee wanted to do that. And most members did not want that. That's why the meeting continued. That's what I understood. Mr. Goodnight? I just want to not move on to the next topic, if possible. Before we move on, you have something on procedure? Okay. Mr. Golding, please. Mr. Chair, I want to ask the clerk, following what happened on Monday night, there was a suspension. What happens next? What does the committee need to do the next day when there's an 11 a.m. meeting? I do not want to go into the technical details. When you're in a suspension, then you're in the same meeting. The meeting on Monday was meeting number 5. The Tuesday meeting was meeting number 6. It was not the same meeting. We canceled meeting 6 with the witnesses, but it is the role of the chair to set up the meetings. But the subsequent meetings to the suspended meetings are automatically postponed because we are still in meeting 5. Today, we should be in meeting 7, but rather we're in meeting number 5, part 2. After suspension, the committee still keeps the same time slots for the resources.
I have a question on Mr. Godin's point. If instead of suspending, we had adopted an adjournment motion in the beginning of meeting 6, so we called for number 5 under 1064. So with that, if we had adjourned, the person who had tabled the motion under 1064, Mr. Godin, at the beginning of meeting 6, could have asked for us to return to the work of meeting 5. That would have had precedence. Is that the case? A member of the committee can use his speaking time to table a motion. In this case, the table can ask to bring something back. That would have been a dilatory motion, so there wouldn't have been a debate on it. So he could have asked for that when he had the floor. Mr. Dalton? Pretty frequently, we've had things like this where we had witnesses, but there were debates. We spoke of other topics, and sometimes the witnesses didn't have the opportunity to speak. So it is a possibility. It's not the best, but it's certainly something that's happened fairly frequently. I have no one else on the speaking list, so I will suggest we move to, Mr. Godin. If you would like to get into meeting 5, part 2, something happened between Monday night and today. And I would like to shed some light on this. I have the regulation, including the annexes. I'd like to verify with the clerk if this is the most recent version. Can you repeat? Version codified 2025. I will verify. The most recent version that I see is the consolidated version, June 5th, 2025. Chair, I'd like to ask a question to the clerk. Have there been modifications on Article 106 in the last version? I do not have the response. I'll check. I'll respond, no. Unfortunately, I don't have the last version. Maybe we'll ask to have the update. Thank you. Monday night. Parliamentarians of 2 different parties in the House of Commons signed previously the interpreter was not provided with the document. I won't read the whole thing because we'll lose time. And afterwards, Article 106.4, in the fort, within 5 days of the receipt by the clerk of the Standing Committee of a request filed by any 4 members of the said committee representing at least 2 recognized political parties. You verified, Chair, Monday night, our request. That is a parliamentary privilege. It's a right. As elected MPs, we have tools. The procedural rules is the Bible that allows us to be in conformity with the rules to make our points. I'll ask you the following question. After having suspended the meeting, why didn't you call the next part of the meeting of Monday night, Tuesday at 11, because the room was already planned, staff was already planned. You wanted to free up the witnesses. That's logical. Why didn't you have the meeting Tuesday at 11? We had the occasion to discuss that with colleagues from all parties. I simply want to say that as the chair, my goal is to ensure that all colleagues from all parties work as collaboratively as possible in order to deliver on subjects before us. That's my priority. You said, Chair, I think you have until today collaboration of all parties, of all MPs here, as you mentioned, and allows me to divulge the reason you gave me for canceling Tuesday's meeting. If you don't say it, I have it, and I'll send it around. Would you like to say it? I just told you. What you told me, you didn't want to waste money to continue on this subject. How am I to interpret that as a parliamentarian? You're telling me we have a procedural rule book, but us, unfortunately, we won't apply it because, well, we don't like what's being discussed. Is that what happened? Are we in a dictatorship or are we in a democracy? Are you able to affirm what I just said based on the conversation that we had that you mentioned in your response? That's what you told me. I don't think that you're correctly representing what I said. Well, I don't have my notes in front of me, but from my point of view, I wanted to ensure that we're using time, that we use committee's time in a way as to facilitate collaboration. And for me, the best way to do so is for colleagues to commit to talk about how to find an agreement so that the next committee meeting could be productive. So what you're affirming is that Tuesday at 11, after Monday evening's debate that ended around 8, between then and Tuesday at 11, your party didn't have time to propose amendments. That's what I deduce. And that's why you canceled Tuesday's meeting. What is your reasoning for Tuesday's cancellation? Mr. Godin, I am not aware of the strategy of one party or another. I'm the chair. I do my best to deliver on important subjects and to ensure collaboration. And by collaboration, Chair, you mentioned that we had phone discussions after you had sent the cancellation Tuesday morning. I can say that we had discussions, you and I, with other party representatives at my office Monday evening to have collaboration. And I said, we had collaboration always in the interest of serving the subject, which is official languages. And so what you're saying is it made sense that Tuesday you canceled the meeting and that today, Thursday, after meeting number 5, part 2, is that what you're saying? I see that there are raised hands, Madame Chenet, and then Mr. Deschênes-Thériault. What I want to say is that, for me, my goal was to maximize collaboration on relevant subjects. You think that collaboration is wasting public resources because the subjects didn't interest you and you weren't calling for the follow-up of the meeting Tuesday at 11. Is that collaborating? What you're saying isn't accurate. It's not what I said. I'm asking you the question. That's not what I said in private. I already said that. Madame Chenet and Mr. Deschênes-Thériault. Thank you for recognizing my raised hand. I believe that the points that my colleagues wanted to make were made. Maybe now we can discuss the subject at hand. It's certainly deplorable that when another party, when they're in a break, calls for a dialogue and that the dialogue is not open, it's not necessarily as constructive, and I hope that we will have a constructive debate here. So my question is, can we continue on the discussion that we were slated to have today? Mr. de Chanterieu, then Mr. Godin. I simply want to reiterate what my colleague said. We want to work collaboratively and start our discussions on the subject at hand on the agenda today. Thank you. Mr. Godin. There were discussions before Monday at 6 a.m., 6:30 in the morning. There was a lot of collaboration. We understand that the majority of people here are new. And now I'm being reproached for after the Monday's break. And they haven't called back the meeting Tuesday at 11, that I'm not showing collaboration. Excuse me, but I do not accept, and I ask my colleague to withdraw her words. Madame Chanette. Collaboration goes both ways. And when there are discussions, in effect, Chair, it's important that everything be put on the table and that we say that we are here. And so collaboration has to go both ways. So to avoid any impression, it's important to come back and open dialogue and not to simply say, oh, you did something, or point fingers, and it won't be constructive. And I really hope that because fundamentally, we all agree that our Prime Minister needs to take French and express himself in French, as he did yesterday during his speech in front of university students. And that's what we need to do, because at the end of the day, we want the same thing, but now it's in terms of the modalities to get there. And that was my point. Yes? Is it possible to continue the meeting instead of continuing to talk about the process? Can we simply continue the conversation part 2? Mr. Godin. Chair, the Liberals want to seem like good players, seem like they're collaborative. We reached out our hand Monday night. Why did they conduct filibustering? And today they want to make us out like the bad guys. Excuse me, with all due respect for my colleagues. Please. And that's all I'll say. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes. Thank you. I've listened to all that. You said earlier there are many new members here. I think we all need to agree it didn't happen as we would have liked last week. I think everyone here is here to serve our fellow citizens. If we all wanted to be in good faith, we can turn the page and start in a collaborative manner. Clearly, we're not in the same parties, we won't always have the same opinions, but for as long as we maintain respect among ourselves, we'll be able to find points of agreement. Thank you. Mr. Good. I'd like to highlight the wisdom of my colleague. And I will mention that the Conservative Party of Canada are ready to collaborate. But I can tell you that during the last meeting, there was an agreement that you were witness to that was not respected, that the Liberals did not respect. And now let's turn the page and let's speak to the subject at hand. And I hope that those across the aisle will be collaborative. Thank you. Can we proceed? Would anyone else like to speak on the procedural subject? I just want to say I wasn't invited to the agreement. It's funny, but it says a lot. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Beaulieu. And if it's the will of the committee, we will speak to the subject at hand. On my list of speakers, I had Madame Migaeli. I wanted to ask if anyone else wanted to get on the list. Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, anyone else? I'd like to collaborate, so when we suspended last time, I had on my speaking list only Madame Mingari. So I just asked if there are other colleagues who would like to be on the list, Mr. Deschênes-Thériault and Mr. Dalton. I simply wanted to say if anyone wanted to be added to the speaking list and ask who wanted to speak. So Mrs. Mingali, okay. And we are discussing the motion at hand, Madame Mingali. Yes, thank you, dear colleagues. I think we all agree that the Prime Minister has to do better at speaking in French. Moreover, he did so last night during his pre-budget speech, as my colleague mentioned, where he spoke in French quite a bit. As Mr. Deschênes-Thériault, my colleague, mentioned, the last time we met, we are favorable to certain aspects of your motion. However, the element that worries me is about paragraph C. And moreover, I think my colleague Deschênes-Thériault is proposing an amendment, and I'll thank you, Chair. And as I mentioned Monday night, there's several elements that we agree on. We all agree that official languages is at the heart of our Canadian identity and that it must be reflected at all levels of government, including the Prime Minister. And that's why, overall, there are some elements we agree on. We agree with that paragraph, and we will support it. Paragraph B, that the committee hold another meeting to hear a group of witnesses proposed by each recognized party on the importance of the use of French at the highest levels of government and testify to the decline of French in Canada. We also agree in the modernization of the OLA, so we're also for paragraph B. Point of order. Well, just to correct my colleague, he's reading my motion, except that Monday night we voted on an amendment, a block amendment, and he should integrate that into what he's saying. Yes, you are absolutely correct. So I agree as modified, as amended by the block colleague and voted on by the committee. So paragraph A and B we agree upon. Where we have an issue is paragraph C. When we talk about production of all documents indicating the activities on the Prime Minister's agenda since he took office, that's not something we can do for multiple reasons. We can think of national security. So in order to understand the PM's French and everything in his agenda seems excessive for the motion's point. So I propose the amendment, to remove paragraph C, And I'll send that to the clerk. So while Mr. Deschênes-Thériault sends that, you have a speaking order? Yes, I sent it to the clerk.
I have Mr. Dalton, Mr. Villeneuve on the list. We have a motion, right? Because I also have a motion to table. So I have Mr. Villeneuve and Mr. Gaudin. Mr. Dalton had asked to speak, but things have changed in the meantime. I just want to facilitate your work, Chair. Explain. My colleague has an amendment to make, except I think at this point we're going to be discussing my colleague's amendment, Mr. Deschantelio's, before Mr. Dalton is. So perhaps we can hold the list for until after we're done hearing from Mr. Deschantelio. Is that okay for collaboration? Yeah, it's great. Excellent. So the clerk will help me now. Remember who's on the list. Mr. Dalton. Inaudible? So it's simply to withdraw section C. So Mr. Dalton on the list for once we've decided what we want to do with Mr. Deschantelio's sub-amendment. Mr. Villeneuve has the floor. Yes, it's on the general motion. You can put me on the back burner then. You want to be on the back burner? What does that mean? On the main motion then. Okay, yep. Madam Clerk, just to be clear, Mr. Villeneuve is asking to be added to the list for when we revert to the general list. And Mr. Dalton is actually asking to speak to a motion he will be tabling. I'll suspend.
Je reconvoque la réunion.
Let's resume the meeting. Before we suspended, Mr. Deschênes-Thériault had proposed an amendment. So I'll start the list. At this point, I have no one on the list. Mr. Gaudin. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can lighten, if you will, point C for reasons of national security, and we're fully open to that. But we won't agree to fully withdrawing paragraph C. Now, I'm extending an olive branch to the party opposite. Unfortunately, I don't have the written version of this document. I'll check with the clerk.
No. Mon amendement.
No, of my amendment.
Ça. C'est parce que mon staff n'a pas d'ordinateur.
Juste pour clarifier, M. Gaudin.
Just to clarify, Mr. Gaudin, are you suggesting a sub-amendment? Is that right? Go ahead. Sorry, Madam Clerk. So I have a new employee, and I said I needed someone. Wonderful has joined my team, but unfortunately he does not have his computer with him due to these IT issues, and so it's difficult to do this over the phone. On point C, I understand what my colleague is saying, but we're not prepared to do away with this request that the Prime Minister provide the information to the committee. What I would do is this. With respect to indicating the activities on Prime Minister Mark Carney's agenda since he took office, so there we would add relating to activities in any way relating to French. Of course, this is the interpreter's off-the-cuff site translation, excluding meetings or other activities that could be related to national security matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for you, Mr. Gaudin. Does that mean that we withdraw the terms, everything that follows? No, it's an add-on. So, concerning activities, including any activity related to excluding any issue relating to national security, but then including the rest of the motion, correct? I see Mr. Deschênes-Thériault would like to speak to the sub-amendment. Go ahead. Thank you to my colleague, Mr. Gaudin. Can we suspend so we can see that sub-amendment and look at it properly?
Je reconvoque la...
I will reconvene the meeting. We were on the sub-amendment moved forward by Mr. Godin. And who do we have on the list, Ms. Clerk? So, Mr. Godin, followed by Mr. Teokyo. Mr. Chair, during the break, I spoke with members from the other party, and before answering their suggestion, I want to understand the interpretation of Article 108A. Can you talk about the public access to the information? Because it is important to have an answer there to make a decision. Did you say 108A of the rules? I am looking at that right now, and I will come back to you. As the clerk is seeking the answer to your question, are you okay if we move on? Yes, I'm just waiting for her answer. Mr. Deschênes, thank you. Well, my question will depend on the answer given to Mr. Godin, so I cannot really elaborate right now. I don't believe that I don't want the debate to close. I'm just waiting for Mr. Godin to have his answer. So I will just leave my name on the questions list. So I will suspend for 1 minute for the clerk to...
Et sur ma
We are
liste,
discussing the sub-amendment, and on the list is Mr. Godin, followed by Mr. Deschanteriaux. Mr. Godin. Mr. Chair, I have another question for the clerk. We are just putting the finishing touches. We did not suggest your option, right? So here's my question to you, Ms. Clerk. And then my colleague can then table his sub-amendment. If in Part C we remove the part pursuant to Standing Order 1081A, just that part, does the committee have the same power to order the disclosure of those documents? The power to ask the documents to be disclosed is a power of the committee. Whether you refer to standing order or not, well, the use of the word order implies that they are using that power. In procedure, we have tools. If the involved party does not respect the order of the committee, can we intervene? Do you understand what I'm asking? Yes. You want to know what are the options available to the committee. Right now, I just want to know if procedure gives us tools to ensure that the order is respected. If the deadline is not met, do we have a recourse option? Just one moment. I don't want to know what the tools are. Let me just check my sources to make sure everything is right. So what I see in the standing order in the book, it's that no law reduces the committee to ask for the disclosure of documents. If the involved party refuses, then the committee needs to can invoke the reasons or come to an agreement, for example, to look at things confidentially or to do so in camera. We can talk about that later. Or to refuse the reason given and then to keep the order. The committee does not have recourse to disciplinary actions, but can ask the House of Commons to take measures. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all. Mr. Deschanteriaux. Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the break, we talked about different options, and everyone is working together in good faith. Do we agree with the amendment brought by Mr. Villeneuve? I'm okay with removing my amendment. Are we talking about Mr. Godin's sub-amendment, which is an amendment to my amendment? So what I wanted to see is, well, we can remove amendments to other amendments, but can Mr. Godin remove his amendment to my amendment so I can remove my amendment and then we can debate another amendment? What does the opposition think about that? Mr. Chair, I want to be very clear. We are open to the withdrawal of my amendment that has the part pursuant to section 1081A of the Standing Order. So means that the wording would be that the committee orders the production of documents, and then we support the addition that meets your request. I resume the meeting. Mr. Deschanterio and Ms. Clerk. Who else? Mr. Villeneuve. And then Mr. Godin. I want to hear from Mr. Godin, so I will cede my turn. I will do the same thing as my colleague and let Mr. Godin speak. Well, Mr. Chair, we are talking about the sub-amendment of my colleague's amendment. So I will withdraw my sub-amendment to suggest another following the elimination process to clean up everything. I appreciate my colleague working together with me. If we accept the withdrawal of my colleague's sub-amendment, I want to withdraw my initial amendment. So please, one thing at a time. To remove an amendment or a sub-amendment, we need unanimous consent. Are we in agreement with what was moved by Mr. Godin? Yes? Unanimous? Okay. And now to the recommendation of Mr. Deschanterio, which is to withdraw his amendment. Is everyone in agreement? Yes, unanimous consent? Okay. Now to Mr. Godin. My colleague will move my amendment, so please just read this. That the committee orders the production of all documents showing Prime Minister Mark Carney's calendar entries since assuming office related to French language activities, excluding activities that may be linked to national security. That includes all documents related to French tutoring, and these documents be sent to the committee within 21 days in order to assess the extent to which the Prime Minister has fulfilled his commitment to improve his French language proficiency. Thank you. I will ask the clerk to distribute this so we can have it in writing. Does someone want to speak?
OK, donc les collègues,
we can wait for the clerk to distribute by writing what Mr. Bélanger just read and then move to a vote? Or do we want to move to a vote right away? Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure that we understand that this was inspired by my sub-amendment, but we are simply removing the part that says pursuant to Section 108(1)(a) of the Standing Order. And then we can move to a vote. Does everyone agree? Ms. Clerk, can we move forward to the vote on the motion? No vote? Is there unanimous consent? Are you asking for unanimous consent? Like we did with the withdrawal, do we need to move to a vote? If it's unanimous, I will consult the clerk. We can do by unanimous consent if everyone agrees. Does everyone agree with what was moved by Mr. Godin and Mr. Bélanger? Yes, unanimous consent adopted.
Donc, qu'on a adopté.
Now that the amendment has been adopted, we can go back to Mr. Godin's original motion that has been modified. Mr. Dalton. On the topic of Mr. Godin's motion that came with amendments in Section A, you can say that during the 2 meetings of the committee, that is new. And within 21 days, and also add to this motion Part D, that the committee reports its conclusions at the House. So I ask that we suspend so that the clerk can distribute the amendment moved by Mr. Dalton. Suspended.
We will proceed with our debate. I note that we have around 20 minutes left. As planned, I know that the meeting is planned to go until 1. I'm aware that people are busy and have other obligations. I don't know if we're going to resolve the question before 1 p.m., but if the debate goes on after 1, one option would be to, with the committee's agreement, that we adjourn with a precedent from the chair that we will continue this discussion at the next meeting. And the clerk will take that down. I'd simply like to be aware of the time and make sure we have a plan. Mr. Godin, on that point, why don't you want to suspend? I'll ask the clerk to explain. She can explain it better than me. Thank you. It's really a technical question. Suspensions create a lot of issues for technicians, for us with the website. We can't publish new notices of meetings. We're changing our meetings in the system. It's really extra administrative work when we suspend, and that also creates ambiguity because the status of the meeting is ambiguous, whereas if we adjourn, well, something is committed and everything is clear. Mr. Godin, I just want to ensure that if we unanimously decide to adjourn, that we'll come back, and this is going to be the #1 priority at the next meeting. Yes, okay. Does everyone agree? Okay. Yes? Okay. And we'll resolve the technical problems because we've been dealing with this for a while. Inaudible. Thank you. So, coming back to Mr. Dalton's amendment. Yes. I'd like to paragraph D. No, E. Sorry. So according to paragraph 109, the committee asks an overall response from the government. Thank you. And so if colleagues want, okay, it seems pretty clear. Yes. Are we ready to vote? Would anyone like to speak to the subject? Once again, I'll tread carefully. The comprehensive response is not the description in point C. That doesn't eliminate the information that would be provided under paragraph C. There's no link. I will consult the clerk.
Donc, 2 points.
2 points, Mr. Godin, to respond to your question. The government's response would be regarding what the committee reported, yes. And a procedural point, Mr. Dalton tabled an amendment. What Mr. Villeneuve tabled isn't considered a sub-amendment, it's considered a separate amendment. And so in order to proceed, we must decide what we want to do with Mr. Dalton's amendment, and then we can move on to Mr. Villeneuve's amendment. So now to Mr. Dalton's amendment. Are we ready to pass this amendment, or would we like to debate? We are ready to vote. Unanimous consent, yes? Okay. Mr. Dalton's amendment is passed unanimously. Now, Mr. Villeneuve's amendment. We don't need to read it again, no. Inaudible. Will we have a debate on Mr. Villeneuve's amendment? No? Shall we vote, or shall we pass it by unanimous consent? Yes? Okay. Adopted. Now let's come back to Mr. Godin's motion. Are there any comments? Would anyone like to debate the question? I'll try and sum it up. My motion plus, and this within 21 days, Mr. Beaulieu's amendment in paragraph A, and particularly the use of Quebec and so on. B, initial motion plus, in the third line, we add the decline of French in Quebec, and amended by Mr. Beaulieu. In C, we're removing, according to 1081A of the Rules of Procedure, the committee, with the changes we decided on earlier, concerning all activities linked to French and national security. Then, we add that the committee report its conclusion to the House, point D, and point E, Mr. Villeneuve's point, concerning the comprehensive response. That's a wrap-up. Do we all agree? I asked the clerk to send the amended motion so we can all look at it one last time. If everyone agrees upon proceeding without seeing it, we're ready to vote. Listen, Chair. We found our spirit of collaboration. What has been discussed is recorded. If ever there's a problem, we can come back to it. So, yes, it depends upon you. Yes, we're ready to vote. Would we like to do so by unanimous consent, or would we like to vote? Vote? We worked a lot. And so we can vote. If there are no comments, any comments? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. Okay. Madame... Oh.
Monsieur Deschênes-Thériault.
En faveur.
Madame Mingarelli.
En faveur.
Monsieur Villeneuve.
En faveur.
Monsieur Godin.
Je voudrais amener un amendement. Non, c'est pas vrai. En faveur.
Monsieur Dalton.
Pour.
Monsieur Bélanger.
En faveur.
Monsieur Gill.
Yes.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Oui.
9 pour, 0 contre.
Donc, la motion...
The motion is passed, and I'll consult the clerk. consult the clerk before proceeding.
que les collègues
All right, colleagues, reconvening the meeting, and with that, we have finished the subject of 1064. I'd like to say that the first meeting will be next Tuesday. There's a study, there are witnesses, as discussed. I simply wanted to clarify that. Yes, Mr. Beaulieu. I have a motion. I'll bring it next Tuesday, and I'll send it to you. It won't be very long. And it'll be for maybe if we can just have 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting.
Donc, Monsieur Beaulieu,
So, Mr. Beaulieu, what I propose to do is, as we have witnesses Tuesday, maybe we can do it at the end of the meeting so that well, so long as there is time planned, because we don't need that much time. At the beginning, at the end, fine. Okay, just to respect the witnesses, that's the only reason. Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything to say? Can we adjourn? Adjourn, thank you.